Welcome to Cultimatum, the podcast uncovering the dark realities of cults and human trafficking. I'm your host, Anonymous Andrew, and each week we dive deep into the manipulation, control, and courageous escapes that define these worlds.
And I'm Melody, Andrew's co-host. Having experienced the depth of a cult firsthand, specifically the House of Yahweh, I am here as an advocate for fellow survivors.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not reflect the official policy or position of Cultimatum or its affiliates. The content discussed on this podcast are based on personal experiences and should not be construed as factual or legal advice. Neither the host nor the guest are liable for any statements made during the episodes. Listeners are encouraged to conduct their own research and seek professional advice where appropriate.
And before we dive into today's episode, we want to issue a trigger warning. Some episodes may cover explicit and potentially disturbing subjects such as sexual abuse, rape, human trafficking, suicide, and other sensitive subjects. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, Cultimatum fans, before we dive into today's episode, we need a tiny favor from each of you.
That's right. If you love what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple and Spotify.
Your support helps us to reach new listeners and bring more awareness and attention to these important topics.
So tap that star rating, drop a quick review, and help us spread the word. It really does make a difference.
Thank you so much for tuning in and for your amazing support. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Now let's get started with the show.
Here we go. Welcome back to another episode of Cultimatum, the culture of cults and human trafficking. And my name is Anonymous Andrew. And with me today is my co-host Melody. Hello, Melody.
Hello, Andrew. Today, we are honored to be joined by Heather Ford, a courageous survivor of the Praise Power Prayer Temple based out of Windsor, Connecticut. Heather endured unimaginable hardships within the group, including being forced to attend grueling all-night prayer meetings without food or water, subjected to public humiliation, and forced marching. Heather is here to share her experience inside the temple and the psychological and physiological toll it took on her and the powerful journey that she's been on to reclaim her voice and her life in the aftermath. Heather, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear this. Just with that list alone. So
Yes.
Take it away, Heather.
And another new cult for us, Andrew.
Yeah, and that too.
Yes.
Too, right? Yeah, so obviously what I'm going to talk about today is pretty heart-wrenching. And so first of all, I'll just start by saying I was entered into this organization through adoption. And I don't want to jump down that whole rabbit hole, but I was taken in by my aunt. And from there, I was brought in. And the abuse started immediately, both for my sister and I. More so me, just because I had a special needs diagnosis. And so I was the brunt of everything. The physical abuse, the emotional abuse, the torment during the school hours. If you've had your chance to do your research on this organization, you will know that the school and the church are all one building. It's all on one property. And so I was there pretty much 7 days a week and for over 8 hours a day. Their Sunday service starts at 10 in the morning and ends at 5 o'clock at night, where I would be sitting in the sanctuary waiting for my aunt and Ray to come out of the office from counting an offering plate. Mind you, during that time, there was probably only 5 or 6 families, and only one offering plate. So it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that it doesn't take 2 hours to count one offering plate with 5 or 6 families. The math isn't mathing. But anyway, after that, we'd go home, wolf down dinner, come back for a prayer meeting, which would start at 6:30 and end at 11 o'clock at night. So on Sundays, our days was full packed. We were there all day, all night. Wednesday night, Friday night services were similar. Start at 6:30 and it would end at 11 o'clock at night. Twice a month, there's an all-night prayer meetings where it started at 6:30 and wouldn't end until the next day, probably till like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Everybody was forced to be in attendance too, children and adults, unfortunately. And unfortunate for my sister and I were forced to be up praying in the spirit. So layman terms, I'll translate that in tongues. And if we did fall asleep, we were forced to march around the sanctuary singing "The Walls of Jericho Will Come Tumbling Down." If you know the song, you know the song. And this is all going on while Ray is sitting at the piano watching the whole thing. That's just a glimpse of kind of what the services are like. And these services are still like that from what I've heard from others who have contacted me.
Is Ray the
Now,
leader?
Ray McMahon is the head leader. Yes, he is
Okay.
the leader of Praise, Power, and Prayer, and he is the principal of Praise, Power, and Prayer Temple, or sorry, Praise, Power, and Prayer Christian School. He has a radio broadcast. He now has a program where he and his family sing every Christmas, like the McMahon family singers. You'd have to Facebook it, look it up, Google it. He has basically manipulated all of his children to move back home to Connecticut and teach at the school. And I'm a teacher, so I can say I know what they're making, and it's crap pay. They went from making, 22 an hour with a college degree job to teaching, which would be, us teachers don't get crap. So it could be anywhere from 13 to 18 an hour. So he has manipulated them all to attend and serve. And now he has all of his grandchildren attending.
How old is this organization? Because you mentioned him as the leader, but did he start this or was there somebody before him?
Okay, so with this location, he started this specific location. There's another location in Montclair, New Jersey, and Martha Davis is like I would say like the ringleader. Um, she basically had Ray start the Windsor, Connecticut location. And so we would often go back and forth from New Jersey to Connecticut, New Jersey to, or back and forth, going back and forth to those different services. So it's been around since, gosh, the 80s probably.
So he's still alive?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah. I mean,
do you
you can look it up yourself.
have any concept of how big the organization as far as the membership is at this time? Do you know?
So from what I've seen and what I've heard, it's the same. It's pretty small. It's pretty much basically all McMahon family with the exception of one or two families. So it's pretty small.
Okay, so this is a small cult.
This is small. I would say family based.
But it's still a church.
Church? Yeah, that's what you want to call it.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess my question would be then, let's just say
She did air quotes.
let's say I live in Connecticut and I want to visit a church. Can I just show up at the door and I'm going to be let in, or are they pretty closed door and you have to like prove yourself before you can walk in the front door?
No, you could show up. You can definitely show up, but just know when you show up, they're going to ask you questions.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
And their so you mentioned that the church and the school are on the same grounds.
Mhm.
So and they're I guess by the state of Connecticut, they're recognized as an educational institution.
Yes.
What grades are there? Kindergarten
Kindergarten to 12th.
to
And I
12.
was there from I will say this, I was there from 3rd grade to 12th.
Oh, so you graduated there. Okay.
Yes, and I graduated, but I didn't get a diploma. I got a certificate of completion because I'm special needs and they do not support special needs diagnosis.
So go ahead, Andrew.
Well, tough question to ask. Technically, you don't have a high school diploma. Is that what you're saying?
I have a GED now, yeah, but I technically did not get a diploma from them. I got a certificate of completion.
That's disgusting. Okay. I mean, you sat there and you went to school for
Mhm.
from 3rd grade to you graduated high school and you get a piece of paper that says, congratulations, you completed.
I
Okay.
completed. So unfortunately, the way it works with Praise, Power, and Prayer is if there's a child that enters the school and they have a special needs diagnosis like mine or any other special needs diagnosis. They don't see it as a special needs diagnosis. They see it as a demon possession, in that you're choosing to not know how to do a certain subject. Like for me, they didn't give me math courses because that was my area of struggle. So instead of giving me math courses, they gave me 5 art courses. Fine, not a problem. But in the end, that really damaged me because I had to go back and get a GED because they refused to give me a math course because they thought, well, she doesn't know how to do it, so we're just not going to do it.
Where in a regular school, whether it be a public school or any school, they would have concentrated on you. They would have given you extra help for the math, right?
Especially a
Okay.
basic math course, right?
Right.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. It's bizarre.
Listen, I've been out for a while. I've been trying to wrap my head around it all too.
So was your way out graduation, or how did you
So a little backtracks. Yeah, I ended up both my sister and I got out. My sister got out in 2001. She actually planned her escape, um, which I'm grateful she had the resources that she had, because at that point my sister was in college. And how that kind of came about was my aunt told her, well, you're going to be coming home for the summer. And meanwhile, my sister had gone and gotten a job at the Boston Police Department, and she had found a place to live on campus. My sister's like, no, I'm not coming home. And so she's like, I'm coming home for Heather's birthday and doing one other thing, and that's about it. And then I'm out. I have to be at work. And so she came home, and she literally was home for one day, and she came to me in private and was like, yeah, I'm not staying until Sunday. I'm staying till tomorrow and I'm leaving. But she's like, please don't say anything. Like, I don't want anything to happen to me or to you. Of course, I kept my sister's secret. I was like, do it, go. And unfortunately, the end result for me was getting punished. I was sexually abused for keeping her secret. So by the time my sister was fully out, it was 2004, because she came home to get all of her stuff, and all of her stuff was thrown on the front lawn. Her bedroom had been repainted, her furniture had been sold as if she didn't exist. I finally escaped in the fall of October of 2006. I actually remember the day because my aunt had pulled me out of a special needs program in Boston where I was attending, and I was in my last year. And my aunt pulled me out, and that was per praise, power, and prayer rules that they pulled me out because I was talking and exposing, or trying to expose, abuse. And she left me in a hotel. In a hotel on the side of the freeway in Cambridge, Massachusetts, basically saying, I'll be back for you in 3 days, but you have 3 days to get right with the Lord and make things right with me. I played the game just to get out. Got home. I was told, okay, you can't have any of your stuff in the house, and you're not allowed to be left alone in the house. So she would drop me off at shopping malls all day from 7 in the morning until 6 at night with no way to get food. Didn't give me money for food or water, which, by the way, is a form of neglect. And I had finally found a job, and I was on the phone with a now ex-member of this organization trying to talk to her about what was going on. And my aunt found out. She came out of her prayer closet, and I was in the kitchen making lunch, and I had just had enough. I was done, and I grabbed a butcher knife in attempt to take my own life. And that is how I got out.
Wow.
I was put under 48-hour watch. And obviously I went willingly. They gave me that choice. Like, listen, you can go now, willingly, or we can take you. I said, I'm going. Bye. Was put under 48-hour watch. After I was cleared, the social worker comes in and says, you're good to go. Call her, have her come get you. I called her on the phone, and literally I can repeat to you verbatim what she told me, which was, I told you I was done. You're no longer welcome in this home. God said that you're done. You're on your own. And of course, the social worker had some colorful words to say and was like, you've got to take her somewhere if you're not going to take her home. So her and Ray McMahon pull up at the hospital, and I'm literally sitting in the back seat. My aunt is speaking in tongues, and Ray is just gloating away. And they dropped me off at a homeless shelter in Manchester, Connecticut, probably 9 o'clock at night, and basically said, "Yeah, you're done. You're not welcome back until you've repented for fornication and adultery." 2 days later, Ray McMahon shows up with my aunt with his 15-passenger red and white van, and dumps all of my stuff sitting in the parking lot of the said homeless shelter, because at that point my sister was like, "Listen, our birth mom is offering to come get you. Go. I know it's not ideal, but go." And so I had found a place, and that pissed my aunt off. And so, yeah, they dumped, and I have proof of all this. I have pictures of all of this. And of course, Ray denies all of that, which I find comical because Cynthia has owned up to all of that. But yeah, that's how I
Cynthia
got
is who?
my aunt.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I have no
And
problem naming names.
and just to confirm, that's his wife.
No, that's my aunt.
No, Cynthia
Okay.
is her. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
she's just a member of the organization, correct?
Yep. Yep, correct.
And she's the one that adopted you. And she's the one that enlisted you into this school
Yep,
or
correct.
church or whatever.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
There's praise, power, and prayer.
Yep, correct. Yep.
I would
Run by
like to.
Ray.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Andrew.
Well, I'm just trying to put it all together like in a nice little. So
Yes.
it's praise, power, and prayer, run by Ray McMahon
Mhm.
and his family.
Mhm.
And they've been running around calling themselves this since around the 1980s. And one thing I wanted to bring up if it's not okay, then just say it's not okay. But you kind of brushed by it. You said you were sexually punished because you told about your sister. You didn't tell them about your sister. By whom were you sexually punished, and what does that
Yeah,
entail?
absolutely. So I started getting sexually abused by another cult leader, Al Aldridge, who at the time he was one of the pastors, because at one point Ray McMahon was asked to step down and Al Aldridge took over. And so a lot of times my behaviors were dealt with sexual abuse. My aunt would call out Aldridge to the house and say, "Heather's out of control, come deal with it." And so oftentimes, yes, that was what happened. And it happened for 7 years. And during those 7 years, yes, keeping my sister's secret of leaving, she called Al Aldridge over and started in. And I'm not going to get into all the gory detail, but yeah, sexually abused was a punishment.
Okay, I have
To
a
you,
question about that. Was that like
go
a
Mhm.
ahead.
normal punishment for any child in the organization, or was that something specifically that you were subjected to for whatever reason? Whatever reason that might be. I don't know.
So, for what I know right now, it was directed specifically toward me. But I have found out, it's interesting because when I actually confronted my aunt on all of this back in 2017, when I had confronted her, she actually admitted and owned that she knew that Al Aldridge had been abusing his own daughters. So, I'm not the only one. As far as what he did to them, I don't like, that's their story. I don't specifically know all the details, but as far as me, I was a direct hit.
Yeah, I would
And
say so.
were you told at the time that this was a punishment and that was supposed to somehow help you? I'm trying to wrap my head
No.
around the
Yeah,
craziness of
me
it.
too. Because what just for an example, when I was a child and corporal punishment was still not frowned upon. Like my father would take out the belt, and I would get the belt, and he would say to me, "This is punishment for what your mother told me what you did today, and believe me, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you." I got all that speech before the belt hit me. So
Mhm.
I'm wondering, did he do the same thing before he just? We have to use our imagination.
Right.
Whatever he did to you, did he say to you, "This is because of your," like what Melody said? He called you out on it and said, "This is your punishment."
No, it was so for them, they thought I was demon possessed. And so anybody in that organization that was demon possessed got some form of punishment, whether it was a public humiliation with with the individuals being forced to throw up and confess sin, or for me, it was sexual abuse behind the closed doors while casting demons out of me and rubbing olive oil on me.
Wow.
Dumbfounded.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
wow. Naturally, the next question I'm going to ask, I've asked this almost every episode. At what point did law enforcement ever get involved? Were they ever called? Was this Ray McMahon ever brought before to be held accountable?
No, we weren't allowed to say, I was not allowed to say anything. I was forced to silence.
How about now? Like, is there a statute of limitations?
Yeah, kind of catch up a little bit. In 2017, I confronted the whole thing. Uh, Even so much as so, I sent Al Aldridge a letter myself saying, I know what you did, not to get a response back because I didn't necessarily want a response back, but just to let him know I know what's up. And then I started calling it all out. I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to get exposed because I know I'm not the only one. I started going to social media platforms, calling it out, addressing it, even I actually confronted my aunt the day after my biological dad died, and said, did you know about this? Like, were you aware? Like, I recalled a specific incident where I was being sexually abused in her house, and I recalled the incident, and she's like, I was not aware. I wish you had told me. And I was like, well, I wasn't allowed to tell you. And she's like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean you weren't allowed? I said, I was not allowed to say anything. I was forced to be quiet. And she's like, are you telling me you were threatened? I was like, yeah. And she's like, I just don't remember anything about the day. And then she can't, because she's doing the deflection kind of thing where she's like, oh, I'm trying to remember that day. Like, I remember like your blinds were open and it was sunny. Like, I just don't, I'm like, are you really? So of course I go off on her. Like, are you really trying to sit here and debate this with me? Like, I literally am telling you this happened in your home and you walked out the door. You were on the phone with Martha Davis. I'm literally telling you where you were and what you were doing. And she was like, I'm sorry. And then she kind of went back to, well, I didn't know what else to do. I was a single parent doing the best that I could. I didn't know. I thought I was dealing with a spiritual issue, air quotes. And so I thought I was doing the best that I need. I thought I was doing what needed to be done.
So when she made that phone call to come deal with you because to Ray or the other one,
Al, yeah.
Al, right? Come punish her because she didn't know that meant that he was going to come sexually abuse you. She didn't know what went on behind.
No, supposedly she didn't. Even though
Supposedly.
she had owned up and admitted that he was abusing his own daughter. So fast forward to 2021, I call Windsor, Connecticut Police Department. I went ahead and finally made a police report. I actually have a copy of that police report because it's going into my book, which I will discuss later. But I was basically told that because of the statute of limitations for that time frame, there was nothing that they could do. Now, that specific detective did call my aunt because I gave them all of that information. I said, she's in another state. I said, here's her number, here's her email. And they were like, yeah, at this point, she's avoiding us. She's refusing to cooperate and answer us. And there's nothing more that I can do at this point. So after talking, and I had talked to a lawyer, I actually had a lawyer take my case for about 3 months, and then they decided that they no longer could take it. And I think that was because for a couple of reasons. One, statute of limitations, and two, Praise, Power, and Prayer is a private organization. It's a private school, private church. And so lawyers tend to not want to get messy with that. So I'm assuming that that's another reason why they didn't want to get involved, and there's just not enough victims coming forward. So fast forward to kind of like now, there have been one of Al Aldridge's daughters has privately reached out to me to confirm and to let me know, hey, we see everything on TikTok. We see you calling our dad out. I 100% we support you. We just can't have our names being said because they're getting it worse. Like, I'm calling it out, and because I'm calling it out, they're getting punished for it, so to speak. So they're well aware. His wife
Are they
is now
still in the organization?
No, they got kicked out. They got kicked out right before me.
So you said that she said that she's getting punished for it. And what I mean, I would imagine she's an adult now. How is she being punished for it?
Yeah, so his children are definitely being punished for me speaking out, and with harassment, bullying, public shaming, different things like that. As far as like the actual abuse, I don't think like they're no longer in the home. They're all kind of out on their own now. But yeah, just the same. Like Al's come after me with harassment and stalking and bullying. He's doing the same to them. So, and now as of recent in the last month, I've had two other individuals that were involved in that organization through a family, and they've come forward as well, letting me know that I was not the only one who tried to run away because I attempted to run away a couple times. I was apparently not the only one running away from Al Aldridge. There were other girls. I was not given specifics, but that's what I've been told. So it's all coming out.
Just want to reiterate something. I guess I want clarification. I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So you're acting out. Your aunt would call this Al guy and tell him that you were acting out, and he would come over, and I'm what my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that he would then take you into another room under the guise of exorcising a demon or something, and what he was really doing was abusing you. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct, 100%. And sometimes it wasn't even in a private room. Sometimes it was right there in the living room or right there in the sanctuary of praise, power, and prayer.
Meaning so other people witnessed it, so they how are so if they were witnessing it and it was abusive and that was not obvious to them, or they just
They just weren't
accepted it?
allowed to say anything. They're not allowed to say anything.
Okay, so basically they're just under the brainwashing of protecting the leadership of the organization.
Yeah, they were told to not call police.
I'm Googling them
Yeah, I
as
told
we're
you.
talking.
You might wanna do your
It's amazing. They must have a tremendously good marketing team. They have 5.5 5 star review on Google.
Yeah,
So
one person, like 2 people.
yeah, actually, you're right. It's very 6 Google reviews, and wow.
And if you
Okay.
actually Google, like, if you put in, like, "Is Praise, Power, and Prayer like a cult?" You will see, like, the cult forum website pop up, and you click on that, and you can actually see what former members have said against them.
Yep, I just did that. Unveiling the Christian cult of prayer power. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So other people that have left are speaking out too and calling it out as a cult.
Yes, they're just doing it on a forum. They're not doing it like they're not bold, right. They're calling it out privately.
They're even on Reddit. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yep,
I'm going
they're
to
everywhere.
assume that it took you a while. I mean, I'm assuming at the time of the abuse you didn't realize it was abuse. I'm going to assume that you figured out that what was happening to you was abusive probably between 2006 when you got out and 2017 when you started speaking out, or is that incorrect?
No, that's correct.
Okay. So at some point you started I'm going to say deconstructing what had happened to you, and you were seeing it through the eyes of an adult and under the eyes of somebody not in the organization, and saw it for
Mhm.
what it was instead of what you believed it was at the time it was happening.
Mhm. Correct.
Wow. So what was that like for you when you figured that out? Like how did that
It was a whirlwind. At first I was kind of in shock because it's so interesting because like right around that time when my birth dad was dying, I will say this at that time during 2016, I was friends with Al Aldridge's daughters on social media. So I was friends with all of them. Actually, his wife was one of my teachers. And I would see pictures of Al and I would just get cringed out and I couldn't like picture like I couldn't put it together, but it bothered me and I was like, I feel sick and I just couldn't like pinpoint it. And that night I had gone to bed and all of a sudden I was having nightmares of him. And I was like, wait, what? Hold up, what? And so I had called my therapist because I was like, I don't this needs to be addressed and I need to make sure that okay, is this something that really happened or is this a nightmare from something that happened to me in foster care and it's just kind of like intermingling. And so I was very careful. And so I had talked to my therapist and she was asking me different questions at that time and I was yes or no and I'm like, yeah, actually this is happening. I'm having these nightmares. And even after that session, I was having more and more explicit details of what I was remembering with Al Aldridge. And I was like, And then I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, like he sexually abused me. And so that from that point, I took off with that and I said, okay, I need to confront this. And so, yeah, I confronted Cynthia, who is my biological aunt. I confronted her on the issue. And that's when I went ahead and sent a letter to Al Aldridge confronting him, letting him know I know what you did, and what you did was messed up. And one day you're going to be held accountable for this. And I actually, so much so, flew back home to Connecticut in 2021 to confront him in person and Ray McMahon. And Al Aldridge attempted to break into my hotel room. He got word that I was in town.
He was trying to stop you from speaking out, I'm assuming?
Absolutely. Pretending to be housekeeping, which if you had known the details of all of my bookings and all of that, you would know that like and I've worked in hotel industry, so that's how I know that they were full of it. I was like, no, rooms are done. Rooms are clean by 1 o'clock. There's no way you were housekeeping. Front desk tried to cover it up, so forth. And then I had attempted to go to Praise, Power, and Prayer and confront Ray at like, by the time I got there, it was 11 in the morning and everybody was gone. So I know that they had gotten word. So I attempted. And so now I've backed off legally because for two reasons. One, I need more support. And two, I went head first and I thought I was ready to go down that rabbit hole. And woo, it bit me in the butt. I was not ready like
Yeah.
I thought. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so it's on the back burner. And I said, okay, I'm just going to continue to speak and call this out. And so, yeah, most of my stuff is on TikTok and I have called it out. Ray and both Ray and Al have come after me on social media trying to silence me. Al likes to stalk and harass and send people to my door. Ray just likes to show up and say I'm slandering. His children like to pop up and say, oh, I'm slandering, or this isn't true, or that didn't happen. But when actuality, I actually have proof, documentation, pictures. So they're working really hard to silence me.
Well, and I'm just going to say this is not a question, but this is exactly why the statute of limitations on sexual abuse should not be a thing, because a lot of times the way that you interpret something as a child is totally different than the way you're going to interpret it as an adult. And then you add a cult like situation in there where you're mind controlled and you don't really know anything about the world outside of this bubble that's been created for you until you get into the real world. You don't realize that what was happening to you was abusive. So I'm just going to call out all of the legal
Yep. Agreed.
organizations with this statute of limitations BS, because that happens just like a lot of times women that are in abusive situations don't realize it's abusive until somebody points it out to them and tells them, just like we just did another interview was about a woman who didn't realize that she was in an abusive marriage until basically she had a counselor tell her, you need to get out of this situation. It's abusive and unhealthy. And until you know, you only know what you know until you learn something different. So that's just atrocious. And I hope there's something to be done with that and some kind of justice that can come, because I guarantee you there are new victims probably right now. Statute of limitations or not, people that are predatory on children don't just stop.
And this is where my head is going. So you said you backed off legally. I would probably stay there. Continue to do what you're doing. Make the podcast circuit. Get yourself on as many cult podcasts, and there's a few out there, or the social media, and try to get anybody else to step forward and get some sort of legal. At that point, then you got to find some representation, some legal representation where you could do a class action and maybe get the statute of limitations. I know nothing about law, so I can't even go down. But that's why you may need to find a lawyer that will either take you pro bono or
we have someone we can actually get you in touch with. Carol Murchison. She's somebody who's come on our podcast talking specifically about cult abuse, and she specializes in that field. So I will send you her information after the interview.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I know. So I know I've been told, like, within talking to all the lawyers, they're like, you definitely have a case, and you have a case against your aunt, which I do, because technically I was legally labeled as special needs. And so obviously, parent leaving a special needs child homeless is illegal. And so I think I have some ramifications around that, I just need to talk to a lawyer and say, like, what are my options with that as well.
Okay. Um,
So
at some point, go ahead, Melody.
I was just going to ask, like, so right now you're in the process, you're just speaking out on social media, but hoping that this goes somewhere legally, I'm assuming. Is that where you're at currently?
Yeah, actually, currently, right now. So, yeah, between the social media, especially on TikTok, I've gotten a little bolder and pinning locations and making sure that the people know where it's at. I am publishing a book. My book will be out August 3rd. And there is a significant date for that reason. That was my sister's birthday. The book is a memoir of how my sister and I escaped. It has literally how I got out. It has the details of what Ray and Al have done, the details of the organization, just different things that are in that book that is going to come out, and calling it all out. And yeah, so I'm hoping, my hope is with this book is that the legal aid will be able to read this book, or somebody in the legal field will see this book and be like, oh my gosh, like, let's pick up this case, whether it's a new fresh kid out of law school, or I don't say kid, but you know what I mean, somebody fresh out of law school, or um Dateline, or People Magazine. I know several stories that were in People Magazine, that people that escaped a cult, and their story was in People Magazine. So right now it's just being published through Amazon. That's just what I'm doing. And then hopefully from there I can get it into Barnes and Noble, or get it into the hands of something bigger.
When you said the release of the date, I may misunderstood you. Did you say it was because it was your sister's birthday?
Yeah, so plot twist in this whole saga. I lost my sister 22 months ago to suicide.
Gosh. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I thought I heard you when you said was. I said there's more to this story.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, that
Wow,
that
Heather.
will certainly put a damper on your healing process as well. So I can see why, yeah, why things have had to be pushed back. Wow, I'm so sorry. That's got to be
Yeah.
really difficult.
It's been extremely difficult. Sorry. Yeah.
So you're not just fighting for your own justice. You're fighting for justice for your
My
sister
sister.
and her trauma and her pain too. Wow.
Absolutely.
I might have a new nemesis, Melody. I might have to drop Twin Flames to go after this cult.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
that's that's a hard one. I had caught that too, Andrew, and I was going to ask the same question. You asked it before I could, but wow. So was your sister in the process of trying to speak out as well before you
No,
lost her, or no?
no, no. I mean, she was speaking out on her college campus, way back then, when she was told she had to be home and for the summer and all of that. She was exposing, and eventually Ray McMahon caught on. So interestingly enough, my sister didn't want to go to college. Like, that wasn't her dream. Her dream was she wanted to be a cop. So much so that she went and joined Police Explorers, which is like a thing that every town does, every state does, for those that are wanting to enter law enforcement field. And I would highly recommend it. And my sister was thriving. She loved it. Seeing her in that action, doing those little things. And then they propositioned her with, you should join the police academy. And my aunt flipped her shit and was like, this is not happening. And looked up all of these colleges for my sister to go to. And it had to be a religious school. And my sister kept basically saying, listen, I don't want to do this. This is not what I want to do. And my sister was told that she was being selfish and not thinking about other people, and that she wasn't thinking about what the Lord wanted her to do, and that she needed to go home and she needed to pray about it more and seek God more. And my sister's like, I don't need to seek anymore. Like, this is what I want to do. And so, long story kind of made short, my sister was forced to attend a Christian college. She finally found one that she liked. And she went and attended Gordon College for 4 years in Massachusetts, where she finally started talking about things going on at home, that she didn't feel safe being at home anymore. She was worried about me and she had concerns. And so they're like, listen, the campus actually told her, if you can find a job, you can live on campus during the summer completely free. And so my sister's like, heck yeah, I got a good deal. And so her first job was working security on campus. And then that got her foot into the door with Boston Police Department, where she worked with Boston Police Department for 12 years. So she was there for the marathon bombing. She was there for all of that. She took the calls for all that. She was actually denied the position of a police officer because of her eyesight. They're very strict with that. So she's like, yeah, I passed the mental health test, I passed the physical, I passed everything else but my eyesight. So she's like, well, what could I do that would get me still with working with the police but not an officer? And that next best thing was a dispatcher. And so my sister was working overnight shifts, night shifts. They actually put her on the most dangerous line. So when you're working 911, there's different cubicles, there's different lines, there's different call centers, and different phone lines. And she took Dorchester, which is the worst of the worst. So if anybody's listening and they know Dorchester, like, yeah, you're walking on rocky ground in there. And you kind of have to be aware of your surroundings. It's very dangerous. And so my sister took that line because she could handle it. She wasn't afraid of that. She's very strong. She was very strong-willed. She knew what she was doing. And I think the last final thing that really got to her, I noticed she was having PTSD back when the bombing was going on. My sister and I did not have the best relationship. We did not. For the 4 years of her college years, we were very close. And then after that, things just got really bad. And a part of that is because of praise, power, and prayer. They were telling me not to talk to her. They were telling her not to talk to me, vice versa. And so finally, I was noticing when we did talk, I was noticing PTSD symptoms in her. And I don't remember exactly what was said, but she had snapped at me and said something. And I was like, whoa, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, she's experiencing some trauma from this. And I didn't recommend her to go to therapy because I felt like, well, little sister's being a hypocrite when I'm not healing my own stuff. How can I tell my big sister to go seek therapy? I just felt like that was really hypocritical of me. And so I kind of just let it slide. And I just said, well, I hope you have somebody to talk to. Distance kind of gained between us for the next couple years or whatnot. And finally, I guess what ended it really for her was she took a call, and it was a routine traffic stop in that area that she was taking calls from, and an officer was shot. She could hear the gunshots, and she's like, oh my gosh, I've got to get him to the hospital. So she's sitting behind that desk and on that computer, shutting down the entire city of Boston to get this officer to safety. And the whole time she was sitting there, she was having an outer body experience. She was clutching. She's just not herself. Anybody that's had PTSD flashbacks, you know what that's like. And after the call, she was like, I think I need some help. I need to talk to somebody. And basically her chief of commander was like, no, you're fine. Get back on the calls. My sister reached out 5 times to somebody professionally, and she was denied all 5 times because she was a cop. And they were told, well, you signed up for this job. You got to take it. We typically don't help civilians. And so ultimately, that's what led to her suicide and I know people are going to be like, oh, she was depressed. Yes, she was depressed. Depression is a part of the problem, but it's not the actual root problem. The root problem is the trauma that she endured, those gunshots that she hears, and then going home and drinking and self-harming. And I actually found out exactly to the extent of the self-harm that she was doing in a document series that she's on. I've listened to it and I don't want to say, but I had no idea that she was in that much trouble. I know she was watching my Instagram stories and I was like, oh shit, like my sister's seeing me call out praise, power, and prayer, and she's seeing me call things out. Like this is probably triggering for her too. So I think it's a mixture of all of it. I think it's a mixture of the work trauma and going home and not having an outlet, not having somebody healthy to talk to. Her marriage was coming to an end. My sister and I, like, we were at odds with each other. She had moved to South Dakota with a boyfriend who had domestic violence charges on him, and she lost her job at the police department with the South Dakota Police Department. Now she says she lost it because she lost her hearing due to COVID. I've never heard of that. I have my own suspicions on that, but ultimately it's trauma. Trauma killed her. Trauma and Ray McMahon. Ray McMahon had a big part in telling her that she was a worthless piece of crap for 21 years. That played a part in it.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. Do you believe that she was also a victim of this Al as well? Was she a victim? One of his victims?
No, no.
No. Okay. Okay. She just had
Okay.
different trauma.
Mhm.
Yeah, unfortunately. Heather, where are you today in your faith and your mental health?
Well, so I've completely walked away from the faith. I'm done. Bye. And I specifically, and that solidified everything at my sister's service, unfortunately, when the pastor decided to use my sister's death as an opportunity to have people come back to God. I just was like, yeah, no, we're really done. This is going to solidify it for me. So I've completely walked away. I don't, yeah, I'm done. That's no longer my circus, no longer my monkeys. My mental health, well, it's rough, and that's just because of my sister's death. What most people don't know is literally 2012, on my actual birthday in 2023, I attempted to take my own life. And I, for whatever reason, did not succeed. And 3 months later, I found out about my sister. So,
Wow.
don't, yeah, there's
Wow.
more there. There's more there. I mean, there's more. My aunt did show up at the service, and my foster parents had her escorted off the property by 10 security guys. My aunt tried to show up. She played the whole victim. She actually called my stepmom and was like, yeah, God's telling me something's up with Nicole, something's wrong, and I just don't know what it is. Do you know what's going on? And of course, my stepmom's like, listen, we haven't talked since her dad's death. Like, I don't know anything. Only to find out that my aunt had talked to our cousin and our cousin had spilled the beans. So that really set me off. That really made my stomach turn because I'm like, okay, so you already knew. So why don't you just come out and say it? Why are you using God as a crutch and saying, well, God's telling me something? No, 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 no. It wasn't God. It was your niece. Like, and then to come to the church to think that you were going to come in and have a final say after what you did to us and disowned us. You don't get to play that game. And our foster family was already on to you. You were warned by our foster family. This was not a good idea for you to take them. So we're done. You're out. Bye. Walked her off the property. So she's tried.
Wow.
Okay.
Goodness.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to ask my
Yeah, we
typical
have to
ending
wrap it up. So
question.
Melody has a final question for you.
Absolutely.
If there's somebody listening that is in a similar situation to yours or is thinking about joining a group or trying to get out of a group, do you have any words of advice for them?
So answer that maybe two different answers. So the first part of that question, if you are somebody from that organization that wants to come forward, I would say please reach out to me privately. You can get me on Instagram or my email. Instagram would be preferably better and safer. And then if you're wanting to join a church or an organization, I would say do your research and make sure you fully know what you're getting into.
Wow, good advice. Heather, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, obviously, it sounds like we could talk for another hour. This is just the tip of the iceberg here. So if you want to hear more from Heather, we will have her social media links in the show notes available if you want to go hear more about her story. And Heather, we just want to
And let
thank
us
you
know
and
when
we
your
wish
book
you
comes
the
out.
best in your healing. Yes, definitely. Yes. And share certainly on our Facebook page. We can share that. You can join the Facebook page, the Cultimatum Podcast Facebook page, and share your book on the page as well.
And I'm just going to add one more thing because I noticed a big difference when I Googled praise, power, and prayer. And then she told me to put the word cult after that. What a big difference I got in my search results. So when you search for an organization that do your research, put the word cult after it and see what kind of results you get because that makes a big difference.
Yep.
Yes.
Believe it
No,
or
that's
not,
excellent advice, Andrew.
yeah, you would think so. Don't just think about joining an organization. Just don't search for the term,
Yeah.
but you get the idea. So, all right,
Yes.
Heather, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
All righty.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Thank you.
And once again, we want to thank Heather so much for coming on the show, being raw and real and sharing her story. Andrew and I were just talking off mic. You can tell she's still dealing with a lot of trauma and she's still in that process. And she got quite emotional in the interview. We do have some guests that it becomes emotional for them to come on the show and share their stories. And she was definitely one of those.
She reached out to us, and it was apparent that she is still struggling to make sense of all this. And there's some things she said off mic that we can't repeat, but she's still deconstructing. If she's even started, I don't even know.
Yeah, I think she's definitely there. She's in the early stages for sure, but
early stages.
Yeah, I think, I mean, even though it sounds like I don't know exactly when she had figured out the abuse exactly. She wasn't sure on dates. Somewhere between 2006 and 2017 from what we gathered from the story. But wow, yeah, the whole thing I hope that she's able to get the legal advice. We're definitely at least going to put her in touch and get her Carol Murchison's contact information, and maybe they can be of assistance to her. But we certainly wish her all the best in her healing.
And just as I said at the very end of that episode, something about it's just amazing what the difference the word cult. So we ask our guests about what their advice is to anybody who might be thinking about joining an organization or trying to get out. And so if you're looking to join the Praise, Power, and Prayer group because you're living in Connecticut and you type them in, you're going to find some wonderful things about them. But if you put the word cult after Praise, Power, and Prayer, you're going to find some pretty bad things about them. It's amazing what one word can do in a Google search. Yeah. So, and I was just going to say, that would ring true for any cult.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that just adding that word cult at the end, you're going to hear both sides of the story. You're going to hear the people who are probably currently still in it and don't view it as a cult, and the people who have left and have now had time to deconstruct what happened to them or what they experienced. And now they can look back in hindsight and say, yeah, that was a cult. So
Correct.
Yeah, definitely you're going to get both. You can Google it both ways. We're not saying you have to Google it with only the word cult. Google it with and without and get both sides of the story. No,
but if you Google it with the word cult and nothing bad comes up, then you probably got yourself a good organization. So
Right. No, that could prove some more
something
legitimacy.
bad comes up. Yeah, exactly. That's it. So
once again, we do want to thank Heather so much for coming on the show and being raw, real, sharing her experience and her emotion with us. That is not always easy for Andrew and I, because we aren't always prepared or expecting that, but we do appreciate her coming on the show and being real with us. And we want to thank all of you for tuning into Cultimatum. Your support is always greatly appreciated. And if you enjoyed today's episode, if you could just take a moment to rate and review the podcast on platforms such as Apple and Spotify, it really does help us out, especially giving us those reviews on Apple. And don't forget to follow, share, and keep listening to all of our latest episodes.
Yeah, and somebody did leave us a review lately. So
oh, good.
Yeah, if I had my phone here, I would like to read it out, but I don't have it handy. Oh. You can also connect with us by joining our Facebook group, Cultimatum Podcast, where we dive deeper into these important topics.
And you can also find us on Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube, and Threads.
If you have a personal experience with cults or human trafficking that you'd like to share, please reach out to us at cultimatumpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you are an ex-cult member and you're seeking out additional support, you can consider joining the Cult Escape and Recovery group on Facebook.
And if you'd like to hear more from me, you can head over to the Anonymous Andrew Podcast Studios, where you'll get a podcast called Digital Dating and another podcast called The Weekend Rant. And if you'd like to help us with the costs of maintaining this podcast, you can show your support through the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link in our show notes. And we are changing the page. By the time you hear this, you'll see when you land on that page, it'll say Cultimatum Podcast. Every bit helps in our mission to spread awareness about cults and human trafficking.
And as always, stay safe, stay informed, and remember, you are not alone.